Every moment we share can heal or harm.
Today we'll talk about how small action can impact people around us.
From exclusion to kindness, neglect to care, it all leaves a mark.
My name is Navjot.
And I'm Shayna.
Let's choose healing.
First, we're going to start talking about how your impact as a person and as a practitioner significantly impacts your clients. And we're going to start on the practitioner side, as we mentioned clients. So most practitioners actually spend more time with their clients than their own families. I know when I worked in a lot of different organizations, I had a lot of clients that I'd spend Christmas with them, New Year's with them, Thanksgiving, all these different holidays. They would be with me instead of their families. And so it's recognizing how often you are with them and how that can significantly impact things.
And I think it's like you become a part of their family because their immediate family might not be there with them during these special occasions or like holidays, even for birthdays, but you are there for them, so you become the whole world for them. You might not feel that because you have a different life, it's just part of your work, but like for them you might have like such an important part that like seeing you makes them happy.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember very early on in my career, I had a manager remind me that at the end of the day, you go home, but this is their home.
Yeah.
And they're always here. And so we have to keep that in mind that yes, we get to leave at the end of the day. We get to go to our home. We get to do different things. We get to go out. And it's actually such a privilege to be able to go out and just whenever you want. If you're like, oh, I really feel like having this food or this drink, or I want to go shopping, and you can just get in your car and go. It's such a privilege to have, where a lot of people in the organizations that you work in, they don't have that privilege because they are having difficulty with their mobility, being able to get around. Maybe they ambulate by a walker or a wheelchair, which is also a nightmare in winter time.
Yeah.
So it's keeping that in mind as well.
When we talk about like how restricted people are when living in these organizations, like our words and our how we talk to them, how we behave around them, like it makes a really big impact on their like how they feel and how the emotional stress is. Like if you talk to them nicely, if you're talking about like fun things, and if you're carrying yourself in a positive manner, they will feel happy to see you. But if you are doing the opposite, they can sense that and they will be more frustrated or they'll feel more depressed according to that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And again, it's their home,
Yeah.
right? It's their home. This is where they live. This is where they spend all their time. And if you come in having a bad day, like we've talked about in our other podcasts, it bleeds into other parts of your life.
Yeah.
And so then you can make such a negative impression or impact on their lives, and then they just have to sit and deal with the environment that you have created. And we have to keep in mind every interaction has a potential to build someone up or to break them down. Every time you go into any conversation, any type of situation with another person, you can either both leave that feeling great, you could both leave that feeling terrible, or one person makes the other person feel terrible. It's that every time you go into those interactions, there is always that choice of, am I going to have a good interaction or a bad interaction? And I think a big thing too is always assuming positive intentions. I find we're so quick to just immediately think somebody is rude or unkind or those kinds of things, and then we start to write off that interaction, which makes it difficult for everyone in that situation because now you've just created a very negative situation. So you go into it thinking about your clients and always trying to assume the best intentions on their side as well, because thinking about, I mean, there's a lot of clients that we've had that are very unkind or things like that, but also they're in probably the most vulnerable and difficult part of their life ever. And if you were, then you would probably react in the same way.
And I would like to add, like, when we talk about like putting negative impact on people, and we have to understand that we can go home and like like relieve our stress by talking to other like family members, or go out watching something, like doing some recreation activity, like going for bowling or anything. But for them, they are staying there, and like when you leave, they can like hold on to that conversation, and they can like think about it or like start overthinking about the same thing and like feel more like like appreciated or more depressed during that, like because they can rerun that conversation in the mind and they can like fall into that loop.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's a really great point that, again, we get to leave, we get to do those things. But then if they don't have people in their lives, because some of our clients don't have any family that ever visit them, a lot of people don't interact with them. So then you're right, they don't get to do any of those things.
Yeah. When we are talking to someone, like if they're giving us positive feedback or they're like understanding our feelings, we'll feel more comfortable with them, talking to them, and like we'll feel more the stress is relieved. But if it goes the other way, we will feel that this person doesn't listen to me or doesn't understand my feelings. It'll grow the feelings more severe, and it might lead into like mental illnesses or like overthinking or like going into like that loop again.
Yeah, and I think a big thing that I've heard a lot of people say is, well, it had to be said. And it's one of those things where, sure, it might have needed to be said, but maybe it didn't need to be heard, or you could have phrased it differently, right? When people are very abrupt or they're unkind, those different things, it makes it difficult for people to express their emotions. It's already very difficult to express emotions to people because we don't want to be vulnerable. We don't want people knowing how we feel. But then when you meet that again with that unkindness or being very abrupt or confrontational about things in the way that you say it can heavily impact that conversation. And that brings us into our final point here, that people might forget what you say, but they won't forget. They will always remember the way that you make them feel. So if you are saying something, and it doesn't really matter what you say, and if you say something, but the way that you use your tone, the way that you phrase it with a very abrupt aggression, then that is going to be the lasting impression that people have, because they're remembering the feeling, and then they're going to think, well, I don't want to ever come to you again because you've made me feel so uncomfortable.
And I think like even in our lives as well, like we might not remember what anybody said, like we might not remember if they were like motivation, like they were giving motivation to us or they were giving demotivation, but we'll remember like how we felt during the conversation or how we felt with that person. Even it is a relationship or like even at workplace, like we can still feel that, like, and when you see the person, you get back all the feelings. I think that's the like gut feeling that you get all the time, that you feel uneasy, you feel uncomfortable, and you don't like to be around that person.
And it's something that you might be conscious of it, or you might have it within your subconscious where it's just all of a sudden you start to, get sweaty palms, your heart rate starts to increase, different things like that, where your body, your nervous system is trying to tell you something, but you might not fully know or understand why. And that's where it can be very difficult for people as well, that when they go around a person, they might feel those things and get really uncomfortable, but not really know why.
So now we'll talk about how neglect, exclusion, and unkind behavior affects like people around us.
Yeah, so one of the biggest things to always remember is that as humans, we are naturally wired to be helpful. We want to find our purpose, find our meaning. So naturally, everybody has that desire within them naturally. And then, of course, you take into nurturing. And of course, some people are in environments that shape them into different people, different choices, things like that. And that's where we get into people that are making not so great choices consistently. It's from being nurtured, I should use quotations there, that they are shaped into that person. But naturally, we all want to be helpful. We all want to do things to support people around us. So when we're talking about being unkind, it's actually going against the grain. It's going against who we are naturally. And so it takes a lot more energy to be unkind. And it's something that actually begins to drain us because we're going against the grain, because we're going against who we are naturally. So when you're not serving your purpose, your meaning, and you're being unkind, it's going to create more burnout, which ultimately is going to make you more unkind, because when you're burnt out, you're not the best version of yourself.
And I think when someone's trying to not be unkind or like be like if they're unkind at work, like they will be like irritated all the time, or they'll have that like negative energy that like everybody will sense, and everybody will try to like avoid you, or they would not like to talk to you or like have a conversation or like a conflict with you, because they know like if that person is always irritated or they are not kind to anyone, like I would not want to talk to that person.
Yeah, which then in turn is going to create that vicious cycle of now people aren't talking to them, they're not interacting with them. So then they're getting more upset, more irritated, more bitter. And so it's something that's really hard to get out of that cycle, but it is possible. It's just recognizing that you're in that cycle and then doing things that help you to figure out what you need, what supports you need, and how you can be that person for yourself as well.
Yeah, and now we'll talk about exclusion. That like most of the time, I would say like exclusion is not done intentionally. It might be because like the person's not like if, in a team, if like the manager might not realize like if they are not involving everyone, or they're not giving invitation to everyone, or not giving equal opportunities to everyone. It might not be intentional, but the person who gets excluded, they feel that I'm being the person who's overseen all the time. I've not given opportunities, and that person will start to become unkind to other people and the team members, and it'll create a bad impression and create a bad like a weak link in the team as well.
Yeah, and naturally as humans, we have that desire of that sense of belonging. We want to be part of things. We want to be included in things. And so when you are excluded for whatever reason, whether it's just not having that invite extended to you, or maybe there is other reasons. I know that, for example, with people with disabilities, something that I've seen a lot in working with people of various abilities is that people try really hard not to exclude them, but they're so obvious about it that it is excluding them. It's pointing things out. One is like, oh, I have another friend that's in a wheelchair, or I know somebody that's in a wheelchair, or this person I work with.
Yeah.
And they're creating this big deal out of it that now they have naturally excluded them without even having that intention. They were trying really hard not to, but they did it anyways because they've now been like, you're very different from me, and I know this one other person that's very different as well. So that's where it gets a little tricky too. And with that, you have to think about with exclusion, there can be things like neglect. So neglect is something that when we are distracted or we're rushing or we're burnt out, that's where it starts to become a problem. A good little story I have about neglect. It's a good story because of the way it is. So I was asking one of my friends to be a bridesmaid, and I wrote in her card because I was rushing really quickly to write the card because she was going to be there any minute. I had just gotten home, this whole scenario anyways. And I meant to write, it wouldn't be a good day without you. And I wrote, it would be a good day without you. And so when she read it, she obviously knew what I had meant. And she had said, I think you meant wouldn't here. And I was mortified. But it shows you in that moment, I was rushing. I was trying to get it done quickly. And so even though it wasn't my intention to neglect, it was still something that had happened. But even when you think about being burnt out, when you're burnt out, you have no energy for anything and you start to not care about things.
Yeah. And especially if you are like in a manager position, or if you are dealing with vulnerable people, as we were talking about clients, especially in recreation field, it's really easy to get burnt out because you have to be on high energy all the time when you're working on the floor. And like it's very easy to drain out your own energy, like trying to please everyone. But like we have to understand that like we are there for them. That's why we should try not to neglect any clients and try to like give it in like invite to everyone. And it happens sometimes that if you are rushing something, like if you have a big event, if you're rushing like to prepare events, and you can forget about, hey, you forgot this person, and like you'll it's not intentional, but like it can happen because you are like rushing into things.
Yeah, definitely. And it's something that happens in your professional life and in your personal life where you'll start to neglect relationships and friendships. I know there's been times where I've just been so busy with work that I haven't maintained friendships, or I have thought about doing something and then I remember somebody might have said, oh, we should do this together. And then I end up naturally or unintentionally, not naturally, unintentionally excluding them from it because I'm like, oh, I want to do this thing and I do it on my time. So you have to be mindful that it goes into both parts of your life. And you have to be very careful with that, with both exclusion and neglect. Even if you don't have somebody vulnerable that you're taking care of, it's still something that can happen in any part of your life.
As we talked about, like if it's happening in a team, the person who's getting neglected or getting excluded from, like maybe intentionally or unintentionally, but that person will feel that he or she is being left out with a reason, or like they might feel they are not doing the job correctly, or they're not qualified enough, or whatever reason it is. They might feel that they are not doing their 100%. That's the reason they are getting neglected or excluded.
Yeah, and I will be the first to say I'm one of those people that will play those scenarios in my head of like somebody maybe will say something or do something, and then I'll immediately flip it to me and be like, oh, it was because of this, or this thing that I did.
Yeah.
But we also can bring it back to COVID, right? During COVID, we were all excluded and neglected in some way or another, especially socially.
Yeah.
That it shows how many people after that had mental health conditions, that their physical health had slipped. There's so many different things that happen because of exclusion and neglect that you have to be so careful. And anytime you're doing that self-assessment, which we should always be reflecting on what we're doing, and you go, you know what, this might be a little excluding or this might be a little neglectful, it's adjusting that so that it's not in that realm anymore.
Yeah.
So with this conversation on exclusion and neglect, we have to talk about the 2-second smile or the 20-second hurt. So the reason that people are more likely to remember being hurt or upset is because they will think about it for a minimum of 20 seconds because you ruminate on it. You think about it, you're thinking about how you felt, what they said, whatever you're thinking about in that moment. Whereas when something good happens, you're like, oh, that's really nice. And then you move on from it, right? So you smile quickly, you think about it for a second, and then you move on from that situation. So if it's somebody gave you a compliment, oh, thank you so much. And then you moved forward from it. But if somebody came up to you and said something like, oh, you look absolutely terrible today, you're going to start thinking, well, why do I look terrible today? Why would they come up to me and say that? How did they see that I felt that way or I looked that way or whatever was happening in that moment, whatever they said to you? Then you're starting to ruminate. So you think about it for so much longer, which means that we have to be so careful with the things that we say or do because it can stick with people because they're going to think about it for longer than that. And I mean, you might have things, I know I have things where from childhood or young adulthood of things that just stuck with you throughout the years. And I mean, you work through it in therapy of being like, oh, that's where it came from type of thing, right? Because you spent so much time thinking about it.
And it's not like you might know it consciously or you might not know why it just stuck to you, but it'll stay stuck until like you offload it to like a therapist or you talk to someone about it. And I think it's very important to like be that person giving the 2-second smile. It doesn't like affect you. It just uses 2-3 muscles, not more than that. So smile for people.
Yeah, definitely. And be kind, right? Like we talked about already, we're naturally wired that way, but then it's better to make people feel good than bad.
Yeah. So now we'll talk about when negativity becomes normal, like in day-to-day life, it spreads like a wildfire. Like it'll attract, like if someone is being negative about something or they are being miserable about something, like if they are talking to someone about that thing, like other person will start talking about misery and like negative stuff as well, and like it'll attract more negative stuff. So it's like similar to when we talked about the red car theory. If you go out looking for the red car, you'll find the red car. So it's like if you go out with negativity, you'll be deemed with negativity with everyone.
Yeah, and I always remember the saying of misery loves company. Where when somebody's miserable, there's nothing they love more than having another person around them be miserable. I remember when I was really struggling with my mental health in my early 20s, and I would go out, people are enjoying the sunshine, and I'm like, ugh, look at those people out there enjoying that sunshine, walking around, physical activity. But I was struggling so much, and I was so miserable that seeing other people happy made me feel more miserable and want to make them feel miserable. Now, of course, I didn't do that because that's something that is not within my nature, but it's something that I can see where people get stuck in that trap because I've been there as well before, right? I think we've all been there at some point in time where we get upset if somebody else is happy while we're upset.
And I think just getting a little off topic here, but like most of the, I've read like some theories about this is how addiction starts. Like when you are miserable and you don't have anyone to talk to, this is how it starts. So that's very important to understand that why we need therapy. Because most of the people like who are addicts or who has that addiction, if they are offered a company or person to talk to, they will choose that over addiction.
Yeah.
Because that was most of the theories, like more like crux of the theories was.
Interesting. Very interesting. Because, yeah, a lot of times when people engage in addiction or self-harm or things like that, it's a matter of feeling something and, or numbing something, right? Yeah. So now we're going to talk about the negative impact or the negative side of when we're using unkind words or unkind actions or exclusion or any kind of negativity in general and that neglect. That we're going to kind of just summarize because we've talked quite a bit about some of the things already. So we're going to just give you that summary of the negative impacts that do exist. So the first thing is just keeping in mind those small unkind gestures, they do leave a lasting impact. Even if you think it's not something significant in their day, it could be something very significant and it could be something that impacts their whole day, potentially their week, their month. It could be something that sticks with them for a long time.
And I think this type of behavior, like if someone is being unkind to you, it leads to like lack of motivation, lack of trust, lack of reliability in a team. So that can lead to like, as we said, like becoming a weakling in the team, like people not relying on you, people not talking to you properly, or not communicating about the work stuff, or they're not like doing a proper job to talk to you because they are being unkind, and people will not like feel confident to talk to you more.
So remember that exclusion can be something that's silent. It might not be something that you're aware of what you're engaging in, but doing that inventory of yourself, having that reflection to go, am I maybe not inviting someone somewhere or am I not involving someone? And keeping in mind that when you exclude or neglect, it can cause people to experience loneliness and low confidence. You are significantly impacting that person and their day.
And I think acknowledging that if you see that you are doing exclusion unintentionally to someone, like just acknowledging that part to them and like apologizing if you can, like just so that they feel that you understand their feeling and you understood that they felt excluded, so that like it'll build like more trust and motivation in the team.
As we talked about, negativity will spread like a wildfire, which means that it's going to start to bleed into other parts of your life, bleed into other people's lives, and it's something that spreads fast in any environment. And like we've talked about in previous podcasts, you can create a great environment around yourself, or you could create a very negative environment around yourself. But always remember that negativity pulls others down. I can think of countless situations I've been in where I felt very positive, and then I've been met with such negativity that all of a sudden now I'm feeling that negativity. I've been pulled down by that, and now I'm feeling negative, and now I'm starting to have that negativity towards other people.
It like bleeds into your daily work and personal life as well. We'll talk about like how small gestures or small things that you do for out of kindness can impact someone or can impact someone's day or like maybe a week.
Yeah. So thinking about when somebody does something small for you, it can be something like holding a door. And I have a specific story from last week where I was at coaching, and when I'm coaching, I have a bunch of things that I'm carrying. So I have, a bag of balls. I have hula hoops. I have another bag of stuff. I have a third bag of stuff, and I'm carrying all this stuff, and I look like a crazy lady because I have so many things that I'm carrying with me inside. And the organization that I go to that we rent out the space from, they never turn on the automatic doors. So when you press the button, it doesn't work because you have to press the button up top first. And so they never do that. So I'm carrying all this stuff, and I had a lot more stuff that day because they were doing baseball. So I had a batting tee with me. I also had a baseball bat. And so I'm walking in with all this stuff, and this woman comes out and she's walking, and all of a sudden she sees me. She abruptly turns around and goes and thinking, I'm like, oh, did I scare her? Or, what was happening here? But she rushed back to hold the door for me. And it saved me from having to put stuff down, open the door, pick the stuff back up, slide myself in, because that's usually how I do it. And I just remember in that moment, such a small thing, but it stuck with me the rest of that time. I felt so positive. I thanked her probably 5 or 6 times because it was just such a positive thing that took her an extra 10 seconds out of her day, but it made a world of difference for me.
And like it might not be actions, it might be like words. Like if you tell someone they are doing really good job, or like even small, like giving them a compliment about how they look or how they are carrying themselves, and like it's just like it stays with them so long. As we talked about, like as negative things can stay with people, so does positive as well. So we would like it's better to give someone positive things to like stay with them rather than giving them negative things.
Yeah, and I think a really big thing I always remember is it costs $0 to be nice, right? And it's something that is very easy, very quick. And like you said, a quick little compliment.
Yeah.
Takes 2 seconds out of your day to say something that now makes that person feel that much better. And that brings us into feeling like we're recharged when we're the giver and receiver of kindness, where when we share a compliment and somebody feels very happy about it and they maybe compliment you back or whatever happens, they thank you, whatever happens, you're both going to leave that situation feeling so good and recharged. It gives you that little boost of energy that you needed.
Like I heard a quote about this thing, like make your anger so expensive that no one can afford it, and make your smile free for everyone so that everyone can have it.
That's
Just so
really
that
good.
like you spread smiles, not like anger.
Yeah.
So that's how I felt like it's important to like show kindness to other people, and it doesn't take any effort to show kindness. And like it could be small things like encouragements, like giving them encouragement, hey, you are doing a good job. Like even when you are working with residents, like I've seen people, like some people they just do activities and they just go home, but like if you give them motivation, hey, you were really good at this game, or you are really good, like they feel more motivated to come for more activities, and they try to be more social, because that's our job, to make them like feel as they are living in their home, not in organization.
Yeah, and if you're just criticizing people all the time, like we've already talked about, they don't want to be around you.
Yeah.
But then it's not going to make them do anything, right? If you're wanting someone to do something faster, you go, oh my gosh, do it faster. Let's go. Why are you taking so long? That person is going to get stressed and overwhelmed. And they're, one, probably going to make mistakes because they're so stressed and overwhelmed now. But then, two, it's probably not going to make them want to do whatever it is that you're asking them to do any faster. Where on the other side, where you encourage them and, like you said, make them feel good, then they're more likely to perform in the way that you were hoping for them to with whatever they were doing. But then again, it's going to make them want to do that task for you a different time because they felt that appreciation.
Yeah, and also I feel like when, especially when we talk about recreation stuff, we like not everyone has the same physical abilities, not everyone has the same cognitive abilities. So like trying to include everyone with like altering your program a little bit, it's not a big deal for you as a therapist or as a professional, but for them it might be a really big deal if they feel included, and if they have like, if someone is on a wheelchair, like if you are doing bowling and if you get the ramp for them for bowling, they feel happy and they love to come out for the bowling after that.
Yeah, and it's something that, again, everyone wants to feel like they belong. Every single person has that desire. It's within Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You need that sense of belonging. You need to be included in things. So it like you said, it's not a big deal for you. It's a quick little thing, getting a ramp so that they can be included. And that's where we need to be aware of the different intentional harms that may happen, but also thinking about what are we doing to create positivity in our life and other people's around us. So constantly taking that inventory, assessing yourself, reflecting on things to think, am I doing the best job? Am I being the best version of myself, whether it's in my personal or my professional life? And could I be doing something different? Could I better include someone in something? And that's where you're going to make good change, is through that awareness.
And like also, as we talked before as well, that listening and talking to people, that creates bond and trust. Like especially when you're working with other people, if you're talking to them, if you're clearly communicating your expectations and you're clearly communicating things that bother you, like in a polite way, then it'll create like a bond, and it'll create more confidence that they can come to you and tell you, hey, do you want to do this like this way, so that like they can offer you more different ways, that if something is bothering you, they'll give you different opportunities to be involved and getting help like to other people as well.
Yeah, and compassion and empathy will go a very long way for everyone. When you are compassionate about their situation, you're empathetic, trying to understand how they feel, you are going to make a world of difference. It's going to build really strong relationships with the people around you, and it's going to create a very positive environment around you as well.
And like as we said, like negativity spreads, so does positivity. So why not we spread positivity instead of negativity in our professional and personal lives?
So always remember that small gestures can make a lifelong difference.
And every moment is a chance to heal or harm anyone.
So let's choose moments that heal.
We'll see you next time.